Man, you talk about two franchises in a whole bunch of agony. You got the Jets coming to visit the Jaguars. We're going to tell you all about it here on our crossover Thursday.
You are Locked On NFL Crossover, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Welcome into our NFL crossover here on Thursday, sponsored by Prize Picks. I am the host of Locked On Jaguars, Tony Wiggins. He is the host of Locked On Jets, my man John Butchco, and we are sitting here, we're laughing because we were talking about some stuff that we had going on while we were recording this. So it's fun. But we're going to have a lot of fun talking about the Jets and the Jaguars here today. A matchup that's coming up this Sunday here in Jacksonville. The only thing I can promise y'all is that the weather's going to be okay. All right. So Crossover Thursday is presented by Prize Picks across our podcast network. Download the app and use the code Locked On NFL to win $50 instantly when you play $5. Butchco, man, bad season for both teams. By the way, shout out to the everydayers of the Jets and the Jaguars. And wherever you get your podcast, make sure you tap into that location so you don't miss an episode. John Butchco, man, I see you a lot on Locked On NFL because I've been using a lot of your clips because the Jets have been must-see TV, bro. I mean, it has been something to behold. And the Jaguars haven't been too much better, although we did not have the drama of Aaron Rodgers.
Yeah, and it's great to be with you. As I mentioned before we started recording, we kind of missed last year. Jets and Jaguars are kind of like a December tradition. We played right around Christmas in 2022 on a Thursday night. We played in 2021. Now we're back after missing 2023. And unfortunately, these two teams, we've had some rough years. And once again, I think both teams are having kind of a rough year. Yeah, as you mentioned, the Jets have been a content machine. They've been must watch is the right way of putting it. Before the year, I think Jets fans were hoping they'd be must watch TV, but because they'd be good because Aaron Rodgers would be having a good year. But this team's just a mess. I mean, before the season, I thought there was a chance that things would not work out for them. I thought there was maybe they fall under 500, maybe they miss the playoffs, but not like this. Not 3-10, not one game out of the top pick in the NFL draft. I mean, it's unbelievable how bad this team is right now.
Yeah, and I saw it, because I do the NFL show, I've always followed the whole league, but when you follow one team, you can kind of get lost in that one team. So I had to follow this step by step. And I got to one point early in the year where I told Julian Council, who was on with me on a Monday, I said, Julian, they're going to win the Jets. They're going to win the AFC East. And he was like, Tony, it's the Jets. And I promise you, when all of that rigmarole started and all of that stuff, and they escorted Robert Saleh out of the building, I got a text from Julian Council, the host of Locked On Carolina Panthers. He said, it's the Jets. He said it again. So what has it really been like to have the whirlwind of Aaron Rodgers, him on McAfee all the time, and then everything starting out okay, and then the coach getting fired and escorted from the building, and then Joe Douglas. What is the ebb and the flow like in a media market like New York to go through that and have to deal with that every single day?
So, every fan approaches this differently, but I'll tell you how I feel, and I know I'm not alone in this. Jets have been really bad for a long time. I mean, they haven't had a winning season since 2015. They haven't made the playoffs since 2010. And that's not just the longest streak in the NFL. That's the longest streak by 5 years. Denver has the second longest drought. They last made it in 2015. They're probably going to make it this year. We've seen a lot of bad Jets seasons, but the one thing about the Jets is like they've kind of been bad in obscurity. They've had like a lot of 1 o'clock games. They haven't really been the top story in the NFL. So at least we've had painful seasons, but we were able to kind of just do it in quiet and lick our own wounds. And this year it's like we are like front and center every week because every week the Jets are doing something crazy. They're losing a game, like in some insane way, like last week when they have the lead, they take the lead in the last minute and find a way to blow the game, or they're firing the coach, as you said, escorted out by security. So, like, I don't know what
you're
gonna steal like a box of pens or something.
Yeah, that's wild. Like, I guess they must have been, somebody said that they were afraid of him because he works out, like he's muscular, right? Yeah. So like they ain't used to about 100 dudes in the building being muscular. That's crazy. But what's been the wildest thing What has been maybe not the wildest thing, but what has been like the biggest shock? It can be good or bad. Is it Solid getting escorted out of the building? Is it some of the things that have been said back and forth about Joe Douglas and whether or not he's had control over this thing the whole time? Was it Devontae Adams flying on a jet in the middle of the night to make it to New York to be with him on McAfee? What has been the wildest thing that has happened in all of this?
On the field, it's been the decline of Aaron Rodgers, and I guess it's not a total shock because he's 41 now. He was 40 at the start of the season, just turned 41 last week. He was coming off a serious injury, and the thing like nobody wanted to admit in this fan base was 2022, which is his last year with the Packers. That was the worst year of his career. He showed signs of decline. He had a good game last week against Miami, but he's looked like a bottom tier quarterback, and it felt last week notwithstanding, it feels like he's gotten worse as the season's gone on. That's on field. Off the field, it's just the extent to which the owner took control, because the head coach got fired and the GM didn't speak to the press, and we've later found out that the GM really wasn't consulted when the coach was fired. I've never heard of that before.
Wow.
Situation where the GM is fired at the same time. Woody Johnson, it sounds like the owner worked out the trade for Devontae Adams, and he's the guy that negotiated the contract to end Hassan Reddick's holdout. And then there was a story that this is actually up there. This actually might be better than the Salah getting escorted out by the security story. Is the day Joe Douglas was fired, they're on the practice field. Douglas is out there, and a helicopter emerges over the horizon. It's the owner, and Douglas apparently jokingly said to I can't remember who he was standing with. It may have been it may have been a coach, or it may have been someone in the front office. He goes, "Well, if I get fired, it's been nice knowing you." And then he actually got fired during that. The owner's just losing it. He's just he's taking total control of the team. Everything that we've seen, all this craziness, because what the owner did, and he was never a good owner. He always did a lot of really impulsive things. He was always really heavy-handed, really meddlesome, but he's taking it to the next level this year. It's this is worse than Jerry Jones.
Man, I thought when he had Sexy Red on the field on a Monday night game twerking, I said, well, Woody's losing it, man. Something going on. That was last year, but it's gotten even worse, man. Butchco, let me tell you something. It is very, very difficult to make me gut laugh, man. But I'm laughing because I can't believe that somebody is actually, and I guarantee you the Jaguar fans are listening. The Jet fans are probably like, what's so funny? The Jaguar fans are listening because there's actually somebody who is having a worse time than us. And you said they haven't been in the playoffs since 2010, bro?
That's right. Rex Ryan was the head coach. Mark Sanchez was the quarterback.
That's the butt fumble stuff.
That was before the butt fumble. The butt fumbles, butt fumble was 2012. Actually, the first couple of years they were looking pretty good, and then it all fell apart, and they never really recovered from it. And so I look at this from the standpoint of when Woody Johnson bought the team in the year 2000. And at that point, Bill Parcells was the GM, and Parcells only stayed for another year, but he left a lot of people in place. A lot of the people who were with the team, through 2012 were Parcells' disciples, including the general manager, Mike Tannenbaum. And near the end of Mike Tannenbaum's tenure, things did not go well. They had to make a change, but there was some stability in the organization prior to that point. There were people that Parcells put in prior to that point. So they actually were pretty successful, from 2000 through 2010. And then the Parcells people left the organization. And they kind of had to make a change because Tannenbaum did not do a good job near the end of his tenure. Ever since 2013, it's been all Woody Johnson, and you've seen what's happened. And it's never been more Woody Johnson than this season.
No doubt about it. Well, we have our own issues down here. I don't know who to name it. I can probably name it the Shad Khan, but Shad is actually I think he's a good man, and I think he's a good owner. He wants to do the right things. In fact, he is hands off. He's not as meddlesome. I'm going to tell you the differences, though, between the Jaguars and the Jets. And the differences really don't matter here. It's a crossover, so we're just basically exchanging war stories here, right? The difference is we're bad, too. The same result is we're a bad organization as well. The difference is I kind of like the people that's down there for the most part. It's just we got to fire some really good people, and I really, really like the owner, so we don't have that same type of feeling towards him down here. But I'll tell you all about it here. I'll tell all the Jets fans all about it in just a second here as we continue with our crossover by Prize Picks here on Thursday. We'll do it in just a second here on Locked On Jaguars and Locked On Jets. Today's show is brought to you and sponsored by FanDuel. That's right. Get ready to tackle the end of the NFL action with FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Get yourself geared up for the playoffs, man, because right now new customers can bet $5 and get $150 in bonus bets if you win. The FanDuel Sportsbook app gives you everything you need to place live bets on the NFL all in one place. So when you get a hunch in the middle of the game, you can check out the latest stats, view live play-by-play, and so much more on the same page where you place those bets. Just visit FanDuel.com to join today, and you'll get started with $150 in bonus bets if you win your first $5 bet. That's FanDuel.com. Never waste a hunch and make every moment more with FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of the NFL. And today's show is also sponsored and brought to you by Game Time. If you're late getting tickets to any event, whether it's a sporting event, a play, a comedy show, don't let somebody get there and tell you, hey, man, your lack of preparation is not my emergency. That's nonsense, because at Game Time, they actually specialize in your lack of preparation and you being late to get those tickets. With their all-in pricing, their seat views, the lowest price guarantee, and they have a curation process that gets you through all of the fluff, and you can get the tickets to whatever event you want, even if you're late, and you can get them at the last minute. Here's the thing, man. You got to go and download the Game Time app. That's right. And create an account and use the code LOCKEDONNFL for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code. I'm going to spell it for you. It's LOCKEDONNFL for $20 off. Download Game Time today. What time is it? It's game time. Running along here on a crossover with Locked On Jaguars, Locked On Jets. My man John Butchco took over and had me belly rolling, man, over here laughing so hard about the agony that's going on with the New York Jets. And now it's time for y'all to say what you laughing at, because you got your stuff too. Butchco, whatever you want to ask me, go ahead and I'll let you know.
Tony, you got to laugh. If you don't laugh, you'd cry when you're following a team like the Jets. I'm guessing no helicopters involved in anything in Jacksonville this year with the owner, Shad Khan.
He's got like a 320-foot cruise ship, though, a super yacht that is worth about $400 million. You know something's going on when he pulls that thing in downtown on the river. That's about a mile and a half away from the stadium. So when you see that, you know he's in town, but he's not usually quick to make heads roll, man. In fact, he's very, very patient. The fans would probably call it too laissez-faire or too patient, not hands-on enough. Delegates authority to these dudes, and he trusts them ever since he's on the team. He's trusted them to do it the right way and just report to him, and everybody work together and get along. You know, in the NFL, that's not what happens, especially when you don't have success. Eventually what you get is a bunch of finger pointing. You don't necessarily get it publicly. We have seen that in the past, but not necessarily with Trent Baalke, the GM, and Doug Peterson, the head coach. We've seen it with Urban Meyer and Trent Baalke. We also saw it prior to that with a little bit with Tom Coughlin, Doug Marrone, and Dave Caldwell. That little, that trio they had going on back after 2017. So, yeah, man, it's always cover your you-know-what when it comes to losing. You've seen it. You probably experienced it a little bit with everybody. Who is it? Is it Douglas? Is it Solid? Then we find out it's Johnson, and it's all of those things, and that's what's going on here a little bit. However, the biggest thing is Trevor Lawrence got banged up again, and he got hurt again, and they got to keep him upright because they've given him a $275 million contract, so he has to get right, have surgery on his non-throwing shoulder in the offseason, and get back to this team in the offseason. We don't know who's going to be the coach. We're probably just like you guys. They're probably going to, well, you guys don't have a coach really, but we don't know if they're going to do a coaching change. We don't know if they're going to fire the GM. At least you guys are already in the process of saying, okay, this thing's going to start over. We are sitting on pins and needles wondering exactly what's going to happen, if anything's going to happen, because Shad Khan is known to be so patient.
I hear about his yacht, and I'm just thinking, I hope Woody Johnson's not listening. We don't need to give him any more ideas on things he needs to, because you see some boat pulling up to the Florham Park at the team facility now. So I'm interested in Doug Peterson, because it seems like his trajectory is kind of similar to like what happened in Philadelphia, where they, had that really good start. I know the Jaguars didn't win the Super Bowl. They did win the AFC South a couple of years ago, though. And then just as things kind of fell off in Philadelphia, they've had like a couple disappointing years in Jacksonville. What do you think's going on with the coaching staff?
If I have to use a basketball reference, it's almost like Mike D'Antoni. Yeah, you can come into a bad situation and you can make that situation a 50-win situation. And you can even make the playoffs and be a team that everybody always talks about as one of those dangerous teams. But you can't get over the hump. You're not a championship coach. And you can't say that about Doug Peterson because he actually won it. So the thing that you can say about him is, well, maybe he just got lucky, or maybe it was perfect timing. Maybe it was the right situation, because that organization is right back knocking on the door again right after. I mean, and they've been there. This ain't the first year that Philly has played this way. They started going right back to the playoffs almost like immediately after he left, and it's been one of those things. They've even been in a Super Bowl since then. So you could sit here and go, maybe it wasn't just him. He had a part of it. Maybe it was Frank Reich. I mean, because if that's the case, then you have to give Nick Foles credit for being one of the greatest Super Bowl quarterbacks of all time based on one performance. So the thing with Doug is he's the nice guy that I talked about. He's a good man. And people can remember them going 9-8 2 years in a row. That was the first time this organization had ever had a winning record in 2 consecutive seasons. And Doug came after Urban, which is like coming after the worst thing you can imagine. It's like the movie 28 Days Later. You wake up and ain't nothing really going on, and you got to figure out and that's what he did, and he did a real good job of it. But where they are now at 3-10, there's no excuse for it. There's no reason for it. They're like, I believe they're 4-15 in their last 19 games. That's just unsustainable. And you have to ask yourself, are these two even though Doug has done things that haven't been done before and he's a good guy, what about that next step? Is he the coach to take us to that next step? And there have been a lot of things that have been going on lately, and the way the messaging is, that gives me the indication that he's not. But I don't think you need to leave Trent Baalke off of the list of cuts, either the GM. I just don't think he's a team builder. I don't think he is a people motivator. I think he kind of rules by iron fist and fear. And I think he's set in his ways and he's stubborn. Doesn't mean he's a bad person. It just means that the things that people around here are saying about him are the things that people said about him in San Francisco. And we're 10 years removed from that, and you're getting the same result. Almost very similar to the things that people are saying about Doug Peterson now are the things that people said about him at the end of his regime in Philadelphia. So I think the Jaguars need to do a clean sweep and get off to a completely new start. Hopefully Shad Khan hears me and understands the need to do that.
So I've been asking a lot of big picture stuff with the Jaguars, but specifically about this game, I know we'll be seeing Mac Jones, who's familiar name to Jets fans because he played with the Patriots early in his career. What can you tell us about this offense under Mac Jones and how it compares with Trevor Lawrence at quarterback?
Trevor's way more dangerous. With Mac, the danger level isn't very high. He's just going to kind of run the offense. Last week, he made a couple of mistakes. He had been known to not really make mistakes, but also known to not really he's like a poor man's Chad Henne. You know what I'm saying? He ain't going to try to win you anything, and he's not going to lead you to victory, but most of the time he won't do things that'll cause you to make mistakes. Well, when the rest of your team decides that they're going to not play up to snuff, then you get what you get with Mac Jones. You've had a couple of games, dog, where they haven't even reached 15 points that he started in. So it actually made people miss Trevor. He came back briefly for half a game until he was knocked unconscious by Azeez Al-Shahir from the Houston Texans, ending his season, by the way. They just said, we're not going to bring him back. We'll go ahead and get the shoulder fixed up because the Jaguars were mathematically eliminated. But Mac just doesn't offer you anything where if he has the ball in his hands at the end of the game, you think he's going to march the team down and win. That's just not who he is. He's a career number 2 guy for a reason now.
Yeah, that's difficult. It's interesting because it's like difficult season for both teams at the quarterback position, but very different reasons for it.
Yep, very, very different reasons. All right, keys to victory. Believe it or not, one of these teams do have to win, and we're going to talk about it. I don't know if we're going to give a score prediction, but I'm going to tell you who I think is going to win the game, and I'll tell you why I think who's going to win, and we'll hit that here in just a second on a crossover edition of Locked On Jaguars and Locked On Jets. Today's show is sponsored and brought to you by Built Rewards. Now, pay attention. If you are sitting there and you're paying rent, listen up. This is a total game changer. Thanks to Built, that's BILT. You can now earn points on rent payments just like you do with groceries or travel. Paying rent now comes with serious perks and it's completely free for you to join. I love using points for travel, and Built makes it so easy to turn rent into rewards. If you're already paying rent, why not make it work for you? You can add valuable Built points on your rent and everyday spending. You can redeem them for flights, hotels, and future payments. With over 500 airlines and 700,000 hotels in their program, the possibilities are endless. Start earning points on rent you're already paying by joining Built and by going to joinbuilt.com/lockedonnfl. That's joinbuilt.com/lockedonnfl to make sure you join, and let them know you're using our link by using that link so they know we sent you. Don't wait. Start earning rewards today at Built Rewards. All right. Thank you for joining us once again here on our Thursday crossovers. Crossover is sponsored and presented by Prize Picks. Download the app and use the code LOCKEDONNFL to win $50 instantly when you play $5. Got my man John Butchco of Locked On Jets here. Tony Wiggins here with Locked On Jags. Believe it or not, somebody's going to win and somebody's going to lose. Unless it ends in a tie, and that would be even funnier to me and Butchco because we always get together around Christmas, and that'll be a nice little Christmas present, right? But I don't think that's what's going to happen. I think the Jets are going to win, and I think the Jets are going to win simply because of the fact that, Aaron Rodgers doesn't want to just go out as a total loser, does he? And lose to this team this Sunday? Nah, I think they actually have too much firepower. Aaron Rodgers, along with the receivers and then the running backs that they have, Garrett Wilson, of course, Devontae Adams, we talked about him. Breece Holmes, I just think they have too many weapons, and the Jaguars with Mac Jones at quarterback have not been able to play really good offensively. And Quincy Williams, if Quincy Williams is healthy, which I think he is, Quincy Williams, he got let go out of here because they said he didn't fit, and then he turned into an all-pro. I think Quincy Williams is going to come in here and try to have a big game this Sunday.
You know, it's interesting, Tony, because I have like the opposite perspective. Like all week on Locked On Jets, I've been talking about how our friends at FanDuel have the Jets favored, and I'm like, really? The Jets are favored? Like, how can you favor the Jets in any game, much less a road game?
Right.
I think it's an interesting contest. I think like this time of year too, it's like the question. It's always a big debate in the Jets fan base. Maybe it is in the Jaguars fan base. Do you want to win? Because do you want to win games, or do you want to like lose and get the higher draft pick?
And you know what? I'm glad you said that, because that actually happened 4 years ago with Trevor Lawrence and Zach Wilson. The Jets were going to get the number one pick. Was it the Jets? Somebody, I can't remember who won. I think Frank Gore did something because he turned out to be a hero. He got a first down that secured a win, and we started thanking the Jet people. And then the Jet media guys start talking about Jacksonville as a city, saying Trevor ain't going to like it there. So for a couple of years, we were on Zach Wilson watch, and y'all were on Trevor Lawrence watch up there with the Jets.
Yeah, that was we were right. Frank Gore made the catch. It was a game against the Rams. He made the catch to seal the game, and like this was like classic Adam Gase, because Adam Gase was the Jets head coach, and the Jets built their offense around Frank Gore that year, who was 37 years old. I mean, he was the go-to guy on offense, which was crazy because Frank Gore's a great player, but he was well past his prime at this point. But he was a guy who was maybe like a couple carries a game. He was like a guy in the locker room for leadership if you want to have him around. So Adam Gase is taking nonstop criticism. Frank Gore makes the catch to seal the win to get them to 1-13, and Adam Gase is like pounding his chest at the press conference. He goes, "I guess it was pretty smart to have a future Hall of Famer on the roster." He's dunking on everybody because Frank Gore makes the play to get him to 1-13. The other thing about that game was the Jets blew a big lead, and the punter Braden Mann made a touchdown saving tackle that on a return that would have won the game for the Rams. So for years, people have talked about the punter like costing the Jets Trevor Lawrence.
Man, that's wild, man. And now Trevor's not here. Zach Wilson is backup quarterback in Denver, I believe. Trevor's out, injured. And we got 49-year-old Aaron Rodgers, and I'm kind of like joking coming in here. It's a chance for people to see a Hall of Famer. I saw Dan Marino play his last game. I don't know if this is Aaron Rodgers' last season, but I saw Dan Marino play his last game right here. And I always kind of held that. I mean, he got sent out of here with 62-7, but I don't think that's going to happen this weekend with the Jets. The Jaguars are wearing their nostalgic throwback jerseys that they love so much. The last time they wore them, they won. So it'll be a good sign if they could get away with that. But I really don't believe with the way this team is playing. I honestly think you have to score at least 17 points, and I don't think the Jaguars can do it unless they get a defensive turnover or a defensive touchdown. I just don't think that they can get to 17 with the way that this team is played.
Yeah, I think with the Jets, it depends on which Aaron Rodgers shows up, because the Aaron Rodgers showed up against Miami. It's a completely different quarterback we've seen for most of the season. Rodgers has, for much of the years, looked like a guy who's been afraid to get hit. It's been like, as soon as he gets the ball, just get it out to the first receiver he can. Whenever he hears like an echo of footsteps from a defensive pass rusher, he'll just dump the ball off as quick as he can. Last week was really the first time all year it felt like he trusted his protection, and maybe it's just because Miami's pass rush isn't very dynamic. I mean, they really did not get to him all that often. He actually looked down the field. He actually was able to hit some big plays in the passing game and stand in the pocket. And that version of Aaron Rodgers could have a big week. He could, put enough points on the board. But if we get the Aaron Rodgers we've seen most of the year, who doesn't trust the pass rush, who's afraid of taking hits, and not unjustifiably afraid of taking hits, because he's been banged up. When he's taken hits this year, the 41-year-old body has not responded. He's been on the injury report a lot. He's dealt with an ankle injury, a knee injury, a hamstring injury. He's played through it, but he's clearly been compromised. If we get the Aaron Rodgers of last week, it could be a big game for the Jets offense. The question is, will it be the Aaron Rodgers of week 14 or the Aaron Rodgers of week 1 through 13?
It's a good question. I'm glad you described it that way, because when I watch him play, I just see a dude that is hell-bent on proving that he can find a hot read. Yeah, it just looks like that's what he's doing. It's like, okay, we ain't playing football. We just playing hot read. I like, as soon as I get it, I got you. I found a hot read. Even if it's not a completion, I found a hot read. There it is. We had it, but he dropped it, or I threw a bad pass, but I got you. That seems like what he's been doing, as opposed to really, really playing quarterback and standing back and taking chances.
It's a great way to describe it. And a couple teams, Minnesota and then Seattle 2 weeks ago, they kind of baited him into interceptions where like they showed blitz and they knew where he was going to go. They knew where his hot read was, and they dropped somebody to undercut it and picked it off. 2 weeks ago, it was a huge play. It was Leonard Williams, a former Jet. It was the defensive tackle. They dropped him into the area where Garrett Wilson was running a slant, and Leonard Williams picked the ball off. Jets were up 14 at that point, and he ran it back for a touchdown, which completely changed the game. So that's really, I haven't heard anybody describe it like that. That's the perfect way of putting it, where he wants his, whether or not it's the time to go to the hot read, that's where he's been looking all year. You're absolutely right about that.
Yeah. Hey man, look, going to be a good game. I think the Jets are going to win. I think you sound like you think the Jags are going to win, because I think it's just too much going on.
I think you've watched too much of the Jaguars, and I watched too much of the Jets this year.
I know it, right? All right, always good to see you, man. I guess we'll go ahead and make plans. We'll see each other next December, because that's when we always get together and do this, man. But you take care of yourself. It's good to hear from you. Locked on Jets, Locked on Jaguars, each and every day. Make sure you guys tap in wherever you get your podcasts and make yourself an every day. For Locked on Jets and Locked on Jaguars, John Butchco and Tony Wiggins, we will see you next time.